Part 14. Doomsday, I am the only one in the world who has superpowers. Author, Gugu Da. Chapter 131. 131 The octopus will die, but the net will not break. Muyuking came to kill, and the tang knives in the hands of Jasmine and others behind him were sharp and shimmering with cold light. The evil aura coming towards their faces and the cold tang dao made a group of wealthy children a little afraid, and they subconsciously retreated behind Wang Xiaoming. They can show off their violence against zombies, but they are still afraid of Muyuking and others who are facing dozens of times more people and holding tang knives, who are not easy to offend at first sight. Are zombies scary? It is indeed scary, but after overcoming the fear of zombies, as long as you dare to pick up weapons, you can generally defeat them. Especially after you figure out the rules, irrational zombies will be easier to deal with. But people are different. People are wise and flexible, especially the female warriors holding tang swords with an imposing manner. You can tell at a glance that they are not easy to mess with. Facing a number of people dozens of times his own, Wang Xiaoming was also shocked. He didn't expect that one day he would be knocked on the door, and judging from the other person's tone, he came from the city wall. Wang Xiaoming is not stupid. The other party is obviously evil and wants to kill them. The purpose came. Faced with this situation, Wang Xiaoming took out the pistol at his waist. This pistol, usually more than a deterrent, finally came in handy at this time. Turning on the safety, Wang Xiaoming pointed his gun at Muyuking at the front, and said clearly, "We don't want to be enemies with you. You are many in number, but the gun in my hand is not a vegetarian. Although the bullets are limited, there should be no people want to die. How about we all take a step back?" Seeing the gun in Wang Xiaoming's hand, a flash of contempt flashed in Muyuking's eyes. How dare he threaten her with just a broken pistol? Even if she doesn't have telekinesis, she's not afraid. If there were more, maybe she would be afraid. Under the gaze of Wang Xiaoming and others, Muyuking raised his arms. Just when Wang Xiaoming and others were slightly relieved, thinking that the other party would just give up, Muyuking smiled sarcastically. "Kill, save no one except women." "What?" On Wang Xiaoming's side, the crowd screamed. They were all stunned by Muyuking's order. Wang Xiaoming, who was holding the gun, was also shocked. The woman opposite, "This is too strong. Let's see who dares to move." Wang Xiaoming became angry and roared. He put his finger on the trigger and shook the gun forward in a threatening manner. But a scene that shocked him happened. With an order, hundreds of women holding tang knives appeared. He actually rushed forward without fear of death. Horses! Aren't these people afraid of death? Wang Xiaoming cursed in his heart. At this time, he couldn't help it anymore. With a crazy look in his eyes, he aimed at the female warriors who rushed up and pulled the trigger. Since he was about to die, he had to pull a few backs before he died. Bang! 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 The muzzle of the gun spits out flames, and the sound of gunshots shook the villa area. Wang Xiaoming felt bitter in his heart. He did not expect that his action would end with his death before it even started. This was probably a sign of dying before he was born. Right? Looking at the female soldiers rushing over with ferocious expressions, Wang Xiaoming emptied the magazine in his pistol without hesitation. His eyes were fixed on the front. He wanted to see the other party's tragic death. Then he was stunned. Stop! A few meters in front of the muzzle, the 9 bullets in the pistol were hovering in mid-air. They didn't even fly out 3 meters. As for seeing the opponent dead, it was even more nonsense. The bullets didn't even fly out. Take it. Why kill someone? The female warriors rushed past, waving tang knives in their hands, and their eyes flashed with a cold luster. In the eyes of these female warriors, these men were no different from the zombies. They were all enemies. The only difference that is, killing these men will not increase your strength. Puff puff puff. Fountains of blood flew into the sky. The young rich second generation's eyes were horrified, and they fell into a pool of blood without any resistance. Some people even he was running, yelling for his life, begging for mercy, but he couldn't run very far before he was overtaken. Bang! Bang! In the crowd, fists and feet collided, and Lu Zihao and a female warrior fought together. The female warrior did not use a knife, just with her from her personal skills, it can be seen that the female warrior has been trained. Lu Zihao has also practiced fighting skills, and is even very proficient in it. In terms of skills, he is obviously better than the female warrior. But in terms of physical fitness, the female warrior has killed many zombies. He was obviously better, with faster speed and harder fists. He hit Lu Zihao's chest with fierce fists, making a muffled sound and spitting out blood. Wang Xiaoming threw away the gun in his hand and faced the supernatural strength. The pistol is really of little use. Looking at the woman in leather clothes walking towards her step by step, Wang Xiaoming took an offensive stance. Jasmine put away the Tang Dao and handed it to the female warrior next to her. With a step, the figure after crossing a distance of several meters, Wang Xiaoming appeared in front of Wang Xiaoming. With his pupils shrunk, Wang Xiaoming grabbed Jasmine with his bare hands, then hit him closely and beat Jasmine to death with an intensive attack, but he missed. Bang bang bang. Quick and ruthless, 3 tricky straight punches hit his heart. Wang Xiaoming's face turned pale, and then his face suddenly flushed. A mouthful of blood rushed to his throat. The white fist in front of him enlarged, and his neck was hit hard. A mouthful of blood was instantly dispersed. Crack. Click. At this time, the sound of broken bones came belatedly, including the ribs in the heart and the sound of the neck being smashed. Jasmine had already pulled back at this time. All she had learned was killing skills, and she was very talented. Gao, it was easy for Jasmine to kill Wang Xiaoming in the past, not to mention that now that his physical fitness has been fully strengthened, his speed is faster, and his punches are stronger, Wang Xiaoming has no room to resist. Plop. The dead body fell to the ground. On the ground, there was not only Wang Xiaoming, but also Lu Zihao not far away. Wang Xiaoming died one after another, and the young girls turned pale with fright. Wu Menfei stood in front of many girls. If Wang Xiaoming is the leader of this group, Wu Menfei, who is excellent in all aspects, is the leader of the girls, and her status is only lower than Wang Xiaoming. The female warriors gathered around, and Wu Menfei protected Lu Minjiao and others and retreated slowly. Mu Yuqing stepped forward and looked at the corpses piled together by the female warriors. He raised his palm and a fire lotus appeared out of thin air, then flew to the pile of corpses, and the fire ignited instantly. After doing all this, Mu Yuqing glanced at the faces of Wu Menfei and others, and said calmly, "From today on, you are no longer free, go pack your things, you only have 10 minutes, I will wait for you outside." Mu Yuqing was in great power and witnessed the murder of his companions. No one like Wu Menfei dared to question Mu Yuqing's words. Wu Menfei glanced at the corpse that was gradually turning into ashes under the burning of the demon fire, then turned her head and walked towards the villa. The young girls followed behind with blank eyes, and they still can't come back to their senses. It didn't take long for the girls to come out with their things, but they were still immersed in the fear just now, and most of them didn't come back to their senses. You don't have to be afraid, as long as you don't do anything stupid, I won't hurt you. Wu Menfei raised her head and looked directly at Mu Yuqing. Although she wanted to question angrily, but looking at those vertical pupils, all courage disappeared and her questioning voice became weak. Why did you kill them? What did they do wrong? What is your purpose in keeping us? Looking at this innocent girl, Mu Yuqing said calmly, there is no right or wrong in the apocalypse. Everything depends on the fist. What's more, they have violated the rules. Don't you think his purpose is to simply explore the inner city? You can figure it out with your toes, don't tell me you can't figure it out. The apocalypse is full of all kinds of power and plunder. If we don't have the power to restrain the chicken, then we are guilty of harboring a treasure, and everything will be plundered by you. It's just that we are strong and they lose. Don't think so. Innocent, if you are dissatisfied, have you seen the fire? Just jump in and be done with it. Looking at the blazing flames over there, Wu Menfei and others had a flash of fear in their eyes. Do you still have questions? If not, then leave. After saying that, Mu Yuking waited for a moment. Seeing that no one spoke, he turned and walked towards the gate of Zhongyuan Villa. Surrounded by the female warriors, Wu Menfei and others followed behind, walking along the way. There were everywhere on the ground. They were all the corpses of zombies, and there were zombies pouring in from various streets around them. Without exception, they were killed without being able to get close. If the amazing fighting power of the women surprised Wu Menfei and others, then those who walked in front Mu Yuking shocked them. Holding a flaming whip, zombies turned into torches wherever he passed, and were evaporated into fly ash in the blink of an eye. The scene was terrifying. With such a shock, they walked for several kilometers, until they came to the city wall and looked up at the tall city wall in front of them. The pressure on their faces almost made them unable to breathe. Activating the mark on the back of the hand, the solid city wall in front of them shook, with a height of 8 meters and a width of more than 10 meters. The corridor appeared in front of them. Walking in the corridor, Wu Menfei and others looked around. The shock in their eyes had never disappeared. At the same time, an uneasiness filled everyone's hearts. They were all worried about the future. Ahead was a bright exit, but their subsequent lives may not be bright. Walking in the inner city, Wu Menfei and the others saw everything that Wang Xiaoming had described in the inner city. Indeed, as Wang Xiaoming said, no one was found in the inner city. Zombies and even the ground were very clean except for dirty blood. After walking some distance, some piles of corpses appeared. At this time, Mu Yuking would throw a handful of demon fire. The inner city is very large, with a distance of 10 kilometers. The road was nothing to Mu Yuking and the female soldiers, but Wu Menfei and others were very tired. When had they walked such a long road? But at this time, no one dared to complain until they came to the hospital. Doorway. Jasmine, take these women to the maid dormitory and let them farm and look at orchards first, and then make collective arrangements when they are free. After giving the instructions, Mu Yuking walked towards the supermarket. In the hospital, after a morning of cleaning, the open space was filled with various cars, and many women were cleaning them with tools. Mu Yuking took one look and she stopped paying attention. She heard Lin Fan mention that once the road is completely clear, you can drive to the city wall, which is convenient and fast. Moreover, when the ecological circle is established, entertainment venues such as bars will be tidied up and opened. You can drive there then. Although it is more convenient and faster to run, but how much money will it cost? On the second floor of the supermarket, Lin Fan was holding Suzialuo and slumped on the sofa. He had broken out the East City wall all morning. Lin Fan was too lazy to move. He just wanted to lie down and be a salted fish. Seeing Mu Yuking come back at this time, Lin Fan was a little surprised. Why did you come back suddenly? Mu Yuking secretly looked around, but didn't find Lin Yu. She happily threw herself into Lin Fan's arms and kept rubbing her. In terms of habits, she was becoming more and more like a cat. I didn't plan to come back, but I accidentally caught a bunch of bifume in the Zhongyuan Villa area, so I brought them back with me. Dang clang. The teacups were scattered with a crisp sound. Lin Fan frowned and looked around at the sound. Next to the coffee table, Yu Yiren stood with a pale face and something wrong with his expression. Doomsday, I am the only one in the world who has superpowers. Author, Gugu Da. Chapter 132. Chapter 132, By chance, since Yu Yiren's daughter Yu Yiren was brought back, she has performed very well both in housework and in serving others. Today, it is the first time that she can't hold the water glass stably, especially her face is pale. His uneasy look made Lin Fan feel that something was a little abnormal. What's wrong with you? Not only Lin Fan is looking at Yu Yiren, Mu Yuking and Suzialuo are also looking at Yu Yiren with doubts. Ever since Yu Yiren came to the second floor, it can be said that everyone present has been attracted to this gentle and charming person with an easygoing and dignified personality. The woman's senses are good. What's going on now? Yu Yiren came back to his senses, knelt on the ground quickly, and said in panic, "I'm sorry, Lord, I was distracted just now, I will clean the floor right away." "Are you really okay?" "Lord, it's really okay." Yu Yiren shook her head quickly and lowered her head to clean the stains on the ground. "Be careful next time." Lin Fan didn't pay much attention and said casually. Just as Li Yun and Zhang Kaiyu brought the hot food, Lin Fan urged Mu Yuking to go over to eat. At the dinner table, Mu Yuking was talking about Zhang while eating. Lin Fan was surprised when he heard what happened in the Yuan Villa area. Someone actually had the idea to come to him, and they even wanted to do wingsuit flying or hot air ballooning. Lin Fan only felt that these rich second-generation people really knew how to play. As for the Zhongyuan Villa area, Lin Fan also knew that the ultra-high housing prices in the high-end villa area in Magic City, which ranged from hundreds of thousands per square meter, to tens of millions to hundreds of millions, or even higher, were simply not something he could have imagined before the end of the world. Mu Yuking's words made Lin Fan realize something. The 15-meter-high city wall is too conspicuous. It may not only be noticed by the rich second generation in Zhongyuan Villa district, but probably more people. Looking at Lin Fan in a daze, Mu Yuking swallowed the food in her mouth and said with a smile, "Your Majesty, I took a look and found that all the beauties in the Zhongyuan Villa area are very beautiful." "Your Majesty, do you want to go and have a look? I remember I asked them to farm and look at the orchards." "Wouldn't it be bad for a group of white and rich girls to do such a thing? Will it be a loss if I get tanned?" At this point, Mu Yuking felt that something was wrong with the previous arrangement. Lin Fan shook his head while stroking the cute legal Lolita in his arms. "I won't go, there are too many beautiful women, and I still want it." "Do you want to see them one by one? It's better to slump on the sofa, Luo looks better, right?" It just so happened that Suzialuo raised her little head, and Lin Fan found the right opportunity and took a few bites. The little Lolita, who was so flattered by the praise, lowered her head again and uttered so much that she couldn't even say a word. Seeing the sticky looks of Lin Fan and Suzialuo, Mu Yuking rolled his eyes and suddenly felt a little full. In fact, just as Lin Fan thought, the 15-meter-high city wall was 20 kilometers long. This goal, it's really too big. Wang Xiaoming and the others discovered that this is not the first case, nor is it the last case. In the southeast and two directions, countless forces have discovered the high city walls here. There are many posts on the internet, and they are all talking about it. The problem of the city wall. But Lin Fan basically doesn't pay attention to these. The old man prefers to hug girls and play games. Isn't it good for him to abuse vegetables with pesticides? Don't say anything to me. Can the King of Glory order vegetables? Sorry, in Gundam 2, in the face of agility and intelligence above 100 points, no matter how fast you are, it's like slow motion. The gap is not even a dimension, how can you not be good? In the afternoon, Lin Fan was paralyzed until 2 o'clock before carrying Suzialuo out to build the city wall. After Lin Fan left, only Li Yun, Yu Yi, and Zhang Kaiyu were left in the living room. "Yiren, what's the matter with you? Why are you so careless?" Li Yun stared at Yu Yiren, who was still a little pale, with concern in her tone. The three of them were now considered a unit, hugging each other for warmth. She didn't want anything to go wrong with Yu Yiren. Yes, That scared me just now, but luckily the Lord wasn't angry. John Kyu was also frightened. Her plump and white palms kept patting her heart, causing waves. Yu Yiren bit her lip and shook her head gently. Li Yun saw something wrong and took Yu Yiren's hand. Said with concern, "Is there anything else you can't say to us? The three of us are grasshoppers on the same rope now. You have to tell us anything, otherwise we won't know how we died if something happened. Don't hide anything from us." Looking at the nervous eyes of Li Yun and Zhang Kaiyu, Yu Yiren lowered her head dejectedly and said softly, "You should have heard what the mistress said, right? My family has real estate in the Zhongyuan villa area, and Yuiyu was at home when the zombies broke out. I think the mistress may have brought Yuiyu back." Li Yun and Li Yun were both stunned after hearing this. At this time, they had time to think about their children's problems. The apocalypse has erupted until now, and they were first arrested. Under various crises, there is no time to think about whether their children are safe. Now that Yu Yiren suddenly mentioned the child, their hearts sank. What do I do? Yu Yiren was a little anxious and wanted to go over and have a look, but was a little scared. Li Yun came back to her senses, looked at the gentle and weak lady in front of her, cheered up and comforted her. "Since you want to go, just go and have a look. It just so happens that our daily tasks now have the responsibility of supervision, so we can go over and have a look. No matter whether it is there or not, we have to face it." Zhang Kaiyu also helped by saying, "Go and have a look. At least it will help you." Yu Yiren shook his head, with a look of fear on his face. "I cannot." "Don't dare." Yu Yiren pulled up the silver chain and collar around her neck, and said in a somewhat excited tone, "I'm like this, how to go to see her? Tell her the truth. Her mother is now a poodle." Li Yun and Zhang Kaiyu suddenly realized that if Yu Yiren didn't tell them, they would have forgotten this matter. They couldn't say they forgot, but let themselves get used to it. After all, they wanted to use the status to please Lin Fan. Li Yun could feel that in the morning, Lin Fan was holding the chain in her hand, and she was more focused and excited. Otherwise, depending on her ability, she might not be able to put on her clothes in an hour. When her fingers touched the collar, Li Yun quickly thought about it. She wanted to live a better life in the apocalypse. There was nothing she couldn't let go of. At least in terms of quality of life, she was several grades higher than the women in the dormitory. Lin Fan did not. He is not a master that she hates and cannot accept. Even Li Yun is proud of it now. Even if it is her daughter who is rescued this time, she will not consider whether the collar around her neck will prevent her from seeing people. "If I were you, I wouldn't have such worries. I have a high sense of identity with my current status. If it were my daughter, I would consider whether to put a collar on her, or let her take another promotion path. Luzi, as for you, think about it slowly." Li Yun sighed, gave up the persuasion, walked step by step to the door of the second floor, changed her shoes and prepared to go out. Someone must be left on the second floor to wait for Lin Fan when he comes back. After Li Yun went out, Zhang Kaiyu also planned to go out. After going out, Yu Yiren was panicked. Seeing that the two good sisters were about to leave, she could feel that there was a rift between the three of them. And this rift was probably because of what she just said. Everyone was the same. In the trench, but you despise this trench, how can there be no cracks? Yu Yiren felt uneasy, and quickly grabbed Zhang Kaiyu's arm, looking at Li Yun who had opened the door on the second floor, and said anxiously, "Wait a minute." Li Yun turned around and looked at Yu Yiren on the sofa, her eyes calm. "Wait for me, I want to go there too." At this point, Yu Yiren glanced at Zhang Kaiyu apologetically and said, "Just let Sister Yun and I go out." Zhang Kaiyu has nothing to argue about. It's the same for anyone who goes out. She can still rest on the second floor. In the hospital area, Li Yun stopped a maid and turned to look at Yu Yiren, who was wearing a mask and looking away. She felt in her heart somewhat helpless. Do you know where the maids who will be brought back by the mistress are? Suddenly stopped by Li Yun, the maid glanced at Li Yun fearfully, then pointed to the parking lot not far away and said, "Sir, those women were arranged to wash the cars over there." Li Yun nodded and pulled Yu Yiren over. More than 10 meters away, Yu Yiren hid behind a tree and carefully searched among a group of maids. He quickly looked at her and then quickly withdrew. Gaze. Following Yu Yiren's gaze, Li Yun quickly found the target. After all, Lu Minjiao's white and rich beauties were too conspicuous. "Would you like to go over and take a look?" Facing Li Yun's inquiry, Yu Yiren quickly shook her head, waved her hands and said, "Let me take a moment, I'm not mentally prepared yet." "Okay, you stay here for a while, I'll go over and take a look." Li Yun didn't force her, and turned towards a group of maids who were washing cars. Wiping the sweat from her forehead, Lu Minjiao held a water gun in her hand. Her arms were so sore, how could she have ever done such a job at such a big age? "I was so tired that I squatted on the ground, gasping for air. Sister Fifei, I am exhausted. If you continue like this, I will be heated to death even if I am not exhausted." Wu Menfei, who was wiping the car with a rag, turned her head, looked at Lu Minjiao who was covered in sweat, and paused with her hands. After wiping the sweat, Wu Menfei felt hot. She had never done such tiring work in her entire life. This is the first time. Looking at the women around me who are wearing light clothes, almost with a piece of tulle and their bras can be seen, even if it is too hot, they just sprinkle water on their bodies. This is better, it is no different from not wearing any clothes. She was surprised. Aren't these women afraid of being seen by men? It was strange to say that it had been almost 2 hours since she came here, and she hadn't noticed any signs of men. Could it be that they were all women here? "Hey, don't be lazy, get up quickly, otherwise you will be discovered by the adults, and everyone will be walking around without food. In serious cases, you may even be fed to zombies." A maid noticed Lu Minjiao and others being lazy, and quickly reminded them. In an instant, a group of maids looked over, and then a maid spotted Li Yun walking over, and her expression suddenly changed. "Hey, that new guy, get up quickly. The adults above are here. If you don't want to die, get up and work." The maids next to her were anxious and urged. Lu Minjiao was startled and stood up quickly. What the maid said was too scary. She didn't want to be fed to zombies. Wu Menfei took a look and it was obvious that she was dressed and in the same condition. Li Yun, who was very different from the maids, quickly moved her hands and continued to clean the car. In the nervous mood of the maids, Li Yun walked to stand next to Lu Minjiao. In an instant, all the women, including Lu Minjiao, "Our hearts are in our throats. Are you the maids who were just brought back? May I have your name?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday, I am the only one in the world who has superpowers. Author, Gugu Da. Chapter 133. Chapter 133. The brought by status. Are you the maids who were just brought back? May I have your name? With a simple sentence, Lu Minjiao instantly fell into the ice hole. Not to mention the heat, she was so cold that she was about to drop to pieces. The maids next to her were not much better, and they didn't even dare to breathe out. Lu Minjiao, she was scared to death. She did not doubt the words of the maids. After all, Mu Yuking and the others were too ruthless, giving Lu Minjiao a feeling of killing people like drinking water. Thinking of being fed to zombies soon, Lu Minjiao wanted to. I was scared to tears. My name is Lu Minjiao. Li Yun's heart moved. Yu Yiren's husband before the end of the world was named Lu, and with the word month in his name, Li Yun could basically confirm it. As for Lu Minjiao being lazy and letting Bai Fume wash the car, this is not is it difficult for others. Bai Fume has done this kind of job? In fact, regardless of Bai Fume or not, even these maids, as long as they are not too excessive, Li Yun will turn a blind eye, and the high-pressure policy will cause problems sooner or later. Turn around and look at me, no one taught you the rules. Lu Minjiao was startled, turned around quickly, and responded according to what the maids taught her. I'm sorry, sir. Looking at Lu Minjiao in front of her, Li Yun was even more certain that the girl in front of her was almost carved out of the same mold as Yu Yiren, especially her quiet and gentle temperament, and her figure was similar to that of a mature woman like Yu Yiren. There are some differences. After all, it is still a young fruit. What's your mother's name? Lu Minjiao was stunned for a moment, with question marks all over her head. She didn't understand why she suddenly started checking her household registration. My mother's name is Yu Yiren. Sir, do you know her? Looking at Li Yun with hopeful eyes, Lu Minjiao didn't mean anything else. If the senior executive in front of her knew her mother and might have a trust relationship, considering her mother's past reputation, she might not let them suffer like this. Before Li Yun could answer, the maids who were washing the car nearby let out exclamations and looked at Lu Minjiao strangely, with deep envy in their eyes. Yu Yiren's name can be said to be like thunder to the ears of these maids, who are in charge of them. One of the three adults in the hospital, apart from the real masters and mistresses like Lin Fan, there are also senior officials like Li Yun and Yu Yiren in the entire hospital. Even the female warriors, even in the first generation, Li Fengqiao, Zhu Fangfang, and Su Yan were much lower in status. After all, they were people living in the core layer. Even if they were serving in dressing and washing, their status was beyond words. After all, the third-rank officials in front of the Prime Minister's door were, the first-rank eunuchs around the emperor had to be carefully accompanied by Li Yun and the others. Lu Minjiao was not deaf, so she naturally heard the exclamations coming from around her, and looked over with blank eyes. She saw the envious looks in the maid's eyes became even more confused for a moment. Wu Menfei and the white and rich beauties who came out were a little confused. Why did the attitudes of these maids change so much? Li Yun glanced at these maids and naturally knew why these maids exclaimed, snorted coldly, "You don't even have a job, right?" The maids were startled and quickly lowered their heads and continued working. Looking back, Li Yun looked at Lu Minjiao with a look of hope in front of her. She wanted to say something, but gave up. I know your mother. Work hard. Li Yun turned around and left, leaving Lu Minjiao alone and confused. Lu Minjiao was washing the car all afternoon, but she couldn't get rid of the doubts in her heart. After all, the maids looked at her with envy from time to time. How could Minjiao not be confused? Knowing the stakes, except for Li Yun who occasionally came over and announced that she could rest for a while, Lu Minjiao did not dare to rest no matter how hot or tired she was. She did not put down the water gun until the evening and ended the day. Work. In just half a day, Lu Minjiao was like an eggplant beaten by frost. It was wilted. It was not wilting, but it had been exhausted all afternoon, and she was about to collapse. When eating in the evening, Lu Minjiao couldn't control the feeling in her heart. She was confused and discussed with Wu Menfei and others who were also very tired, why the maids looked so strangely. Wu Menfei was eating the vegetables in the bowl. Normally, she would never look at such a simple meal without even meat. Take a look, but now she eats very well. She is tired and hungry all afternoon. She really can't bear it without eating. In my opinion, your mother is probably here, and her status may not be low, otherwise those maids would not look at you with such envious eyes. This is my guess, I don't know more. Listening to Wu Menfei's words, Lu Minjiao became even more confused. Before she could ask, Bai Fume, who was at the same table, asked if Yui's mother has a high status here, why do we still have to do such hard work? Even if it has nothing to do with us, Yui should be exempted, right? Lu Minjiao also had this question in her mind. If it is what Wu Menfei said, her mother has a high status here, she should not do such hard work, and her status is still a maid for the time being. Swallowing the food in her mouth, Wu Menfei he shook his head and said, I don't know about this. Look at those maids. What a good person to ask. Wouldn't you know if you just ask them? Lu Minjiao hesitated for a moment, stood up from her seat, and walked towards the maids who were washing the car together in the afternoon. Seeing Lu Minjiao coming over, the maids at this table quickly gave up their seats. The awe on their faces and eyes made Lu Minjiao tremble. Foggy water. You sit, you sit. Looking at the seats in front of her, Lu Minjiao's doubts were about to explode. If these women were so in awe of her before the end, she could understand it, but now it is the end, and everyone has the same status. Why are these maids so afraid of her? Why? What is the reason? Sitting down subconsciously, Lu Minjiao looked at the maids and asked, why are you so afraid of me? This phenomenon started in the afternoon. Do you know my mother? The two maids looked at each other. One of them wanted to say something, but was stopped by the maid next to her. Then she shook her head. The maid who wanted to speak immediately took back her words. The maids are not stupid. Li Yunming obviously knew Lu Minjiao's identity, but he didn't do anything or tell her the truth. There must be a reason. Do they care so much here that they don't want to live anymore? Do they dare to talk nonsense about high-level affairs? They don't dare to gossip now. Lu Minjiao feels even more uncomfortable when the maids are like this, and the curiosity in her heart is about to explode. Come on, do you know anything? Lu Minjiao asked quickly, while several maids shook their heads. They had no choice but to leave the table. Lu Minjiao, who had found nothing, walked back in frustration. After explaining the process again, a group of sisters also looked at each other. They put down their jobs. Looking at the eyes of the sisters looking over, as the leader of a group of white and rich beauties, Wu Menfei still has two skills. Based on Yueyu's description, I can probably infer 2 points. The first point is that Yueyu's mother is indeed here, and her status is not low. The second point is that Yueyu's mother's identity may be more sensitive. There was something unspeakable about why she didn't come to pick up Yueyu. It might be a kind of protection. Of course, it might also be that she had done something sorry for Yueyu and didn't dare to face Yueyu. Although Wu Menfei's conjecture was not entirely correct, a large part of it was correct. Just as everyone was thinking, a large group of people came in outside the canteen, and the canteen became noisy in an instant. Looking at the group of Feng Chen who came in, Wu Menfei looked at the maids curiously, pulled the maid next to her, and asked, who are these? The woman looked at Wu Menfei. Seeing Wu Menfei's beautiful appearance, she subconsciously said cautiously, those people should be the survivors brought back today, but they will soon have the same status as us. Unless they choose to be female warriors and go out to kill zombies, but it depends on whether the mistresses can make it through the night. When the mistresses come over at night, it means they have a chance to choose, but coming over means they have to wait. When she heard that there was still an opportunity to choose to be a female warrior, Wu Menfei's eyes lit up. She pointed at the female warriors holding tang knives and asked, is that what the female warriors are referring to? Does choosing to be a female warrior eliminate the need to be a maid? The woman nodded, looked at Wu Menfei enviously and said, yes, the female warrior's task is to kill zombies. I heard that those weapons were given by the Almighty Lord. The Tang Dao contains the power of the Lord. It can kill zombies. Dead zombies will activate the Lord's power and strengthen the user's body. See those female warriors? Nowadays, all of them are super women. Those first-generation female warriors can even fly over walls and wield sword energy. They are very powerful. Moreover, female warriors have a higher status and have a great chance of coming into contact with the Lord. If the Lord takes a fancy to it, it is like flying up a branch and turning into a phoenix. Wu Menfei's heart was agitated when she heard this. Flying over walls. Sword energy. Tang sword. Strength. Strengthening. Now she understands, no wonder those women are so powerful. Even Wang Xiaoming's strong skills were killed instantly by one face-to-face. If there is external force to strengthen it, then it's understandable. As for flying up a branch and turning into a phoenix, Wu Menfei glanced around the canteen and found that they were all women. She couldn't help but curiously asked, is the master a man or a woman? I noticed that we haven't seen any men here. Could it be that the Lord is also a woman? The maid quickly shook her head and waved her hands. No, 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 the Lord is a man, the only man. Our rule of power is that we don't need men, only women. The Lord is omnipotent, so we don't need men to be an eyesore. Wu Menfei understood immediately. No wonder the maids were so bold and unrestrained in the afternoon, wearing less clothes and splashing water on themselves. It turned out that there were no men in the whole hospital. The only man was the leader of the entire force. All women were property, so naturally they didn't care. Was looked at. So do you know me? The woman shook her head and said hesitantly, I don't know you. You must be the new one today, right? I work in the orchard, what about you? Wu Menfei's heart moved, and she glanced at Lu Minjiao, who was in a daze, and she took it into consideration. My name is Wu Menfei. I heard that there is a senior executive in our force named Yu Yiren. Do you know? She is my relative, can you tell me where she is? Your benefits will be indispensable by then. The woman was stunned for a moment, looking at Wu Menfei with envy in her eyes. I know that Master Yu Yiren lives over there in the supermarket and is a high-ranking person next to the Lord and Mistress. You will be blessed in the future. I heard that Master Yu Yiren has now replaced Mistress Zhao Yanyan and the others in dressing and washing. At work, I might be able to take over one day, so remember to promote me when the time comes. Doomsday, I am the only one in the world who has superpowers. Author, Gugu Da. Chapter 134. Chapter 134. Lin Fan's doubts, will the army come? Wu Menfei didn't hear what the woman said next. She was a little confused. She understood now. She understood why Yu Yiren did not come to Lu Minjiao, and also understood why Li Yun did not choose to help Lu Minjiao. This was somewhat similar to what she had guessed. The noise in the canteen quickly subsided, and under the intimidation of several female warriors, the canteen quickly became quiet. At the dinner table, Wu Menfei looked at Lu Minjiao, who was in a depressed mood. She didn't know whether she should say something or not. Say what? Is your mother preparing to find you a stepfather? Isn't this not good? Being stared at by Wu Menfei's strange eyes, Lu Minjiao felt uncomfortable. Sister Fei, why are you looking at me like this? Just say whatever you have to say. There seems to be nothing that can't be said between us sisters, right? Wu Menfei struggled in her heart, and finally she still chose to tell the truth. After listening to it, Lu Minjiao's expression was different from what she imagined. Wu Menfei was dumbfounded when she saw the calm and even doubtful look on Lu Minjiao's face. You, aren't you angry? No, I'm not angry at all. Lu Minjiao shrugged, with a look of indifference on his face. What's the point? My father and my mother separated 10 years ago. Can my father play outside and not allow my mother to find someone to rely on? Before the end of the world, I told my mother that I could play by myself, but my mother was too conservative. She would never not come to see me because of this. The mentality of a group of sisters at the dinner table exploded. Your ideological awareness is really high. Now it was Wu Menfei's turn to be dumbfounded. If you say so, there is no way Lu Minjiao's mother would not come to see her. What went wrong? Sister Fei, you said my mother is over there in the supermarket, right? Glancing at Lu Minjiao in surprise, Wu Menfei felt a sudden change in her heart and said nervously, "What do you want to do? The supermarket is a forbidden area. If you don't want to die, don't mess around. Tomorrow I will secretly go find Auntie. Do you have Auntie's photo on your phone?" Lu Minjiao quickly took out her mobile phone and pulled out a photo of her and Yu Yiren. Wu Menfei took a look and said in surprise, "You and your mother look so similar. Apart from their different temperaments, I almost thought they were twins." Lu Minjiao raised her hand and slapped Wu Menfei's hand, and said angrily, "Don't talk nonsense, there are still differences between me and my mother." Seeing Lu Minjiao come out of the slump, Wu Menfei stopped joking and took Lu Minjiao and a group of sisters back to the assigned dormitory to prepare for rest. On the second floor of the supermarket, Zhao Wanqing and the others have returned. Today, there are many with the new harvest, more or less women were brought back, totaling more than 200 people. As the general manager of the hospital, Lin Yuyu thought for a while and decided there is a shortage of manpower recently, so we won't do it for the time being. Consider letting them suffer a little first, and then distribute them uniformly when there are more people. Yu Yiren, who was listening next to the sofa, felt bitter in her heart. If she delayed for one more day, her daughter would suffer. In fact, it would be better to go out and kill zombies. Lu Minjiao was active and courageous since she was a child. She was very talented in fencing. Yu Yiren was 90% sure that her daughter would choose to be a female warrior. It turned out to be such a coincidence. There was a shortage of people at this time, so she didn't think about it, which was uncomfortable. She had been watching this afternoon. Lu Minjiao was tired. Seeing this, she almost felt distressed and ran out. If she hadn't been able to pass that hurdle, she would have gone out long ago. With her current status, it would be no problem to arrange more leisurely work for Lu Minjiao and the others. This is the rights given by Lin Yuyu, the general manager. On the sofa, Lin Fan didn't want to play the game. The city walls in the east and west districts were built today, and the north district wall was still half completed. The next step was the city gate tower, wall stacks, etc. It is more troublesome and more detailed work, which may take more time. It is estimated that in the next few days, we will have to do things about the city wall. At 11 o'clock in the evening, Suzialoto ran back to his room, and Lin Fan took Lin Fan with him. Yu Yu and the others went to rest. After a few days of research, they heard that there had been some progress in the system, which was good news. Just when Lin Fan was resting, the north was approaching the magic city, and several dazzling fire lights exploded in the sky. The firelight and air waves smashed countless corpses to pieces, and it seemed as if there was a rain of blood in the sky. The harsh sound of quacking resounded in the air, and it took a long time to calm down. The Imperial City Security Bureau looked at the several people on the screen. The dot disappeared completely. Zhao Jian slammed the table angrily. The soldiers next to him were frightened. They didn't know whether to report the situation for a moment, but it seemed that it was not needed. In 2 days, there were 12 transport aircraft and 8 fighter jets. Counting this batch, 15 transport aircraft and 10 fighter jets have been lost. These damn crows. I really want to kill them all with a nuclear bomb. Zhao Jian breathed rapidly, and there was unspeakable anger in his words. Ever since the president gave him this task and strictly ordered that the Thor must be found, the military has suffered huge losses so far. But he can only think about the issue of nuclear bombs now. He would never dare to touch that thing, otherwise there would be countless condemnations. The nuclear bomb is so destructive that it can shake the nerves of the world. Once the nuclear bomb is used, the situation will escalate. At that time, he can only commit suicide. Apologize. Looking at the angry Zhao Xian, the soldier next to him subconsciously said, "Director, since there are crows blocking the road in that direction, why don't you go in another direction?" Zhao Xian shook his head and laughed at himself. Do you think I don't know where to go? Jinling. Will the Jinling military region let you pass? Or several surrounding military districts? It will be 100% deducted. Forget it, I will go to Mr. President and see what his opinion is. Zhao Xian walked out of the president's office not long after. The expression on his face became much more relaxed. It seemed that he had gotten the desired result. As for the imperial city, they gave up their plan for the demonic city. The losses were out of proportion to the gains. Moreover, in 2 days, everything was already too late. It was not worth paying any more price unless a clear target emerged. The second plan of the imperial capital against the magic capital declared bankruptcy. In Yangpu district, the magical city, on the streets late at night, a somewhat bloated figure shuttled through the boundless sea of corpses. She seemed to be tireless forever, as if she wanted to travel the whole world with a pair of kicks. For 2 long days, she walked tirelessly after dozens and hundreds of kilometers. She has no end, or in other words, she has not reached the end yet. The woman's belly swelled, like a pregnant woman in July or August. Under the stretched clothes, you could even see something moving. The zombies that come and go subconsciously avoid the woman when they are far away, as if the zombies who are irrational also understand what the 5 principles and 4 beauties are. Under the cover of night, the woman's bloated figure walked further and further away. Her path seemed to have a certain pattern and goal, heading east by north. In the next 2 days, Lin Fan was tinkering with the city wall. It took him 2 days to finally complete the 4 walls, including the gate tower, parapets, crenels, and turrets. Lin Fan was really disappointed. It takes a lot of effort. The past 2 days have been very peaceful, and nothing happened. As for the survivors, they are more or less able to bring back 200 to 300 people every day. However, as the scope expands, Zhao Wanqing and the others push outward. The distance is also getting slower and slower. What makes Lin Fan strange is, why hasn't there been any movement in this fucking military region? It shouldn't be, he said it so harshly. Why is there no movement at all? Even if you're far away, can't you at least fly over with some weapons, fighter jets, etc. to intimidate you? So that he can move his muscles and bones. Lin Fan thought of many possibilities, but he didn't expect that it had been 2 days and the military district had ignored him. This was outrageous. In fact, it's not that the military region doesn't want to pay attention to him, but that the military region also has its own difficulties. The Lu family, the warlord of the capital city, fired artillery fire. On the front line, Lu Yuanbin stood out. Next to him was Lu Jingyu, who had a dark face and a constipated expression. As the commander-in-chief of the First Group Army, he was originally supposed to lead his troops to the Demon City to eliminate zombies today, but he didn't even get out. 3 entire divisions, Armored Division, Mechanized Infantry Division, and Light Mechanized Infantry Division, were all blocked in the military zone. You still want to clear out the zombies in the Magic City, but you haven't even left the door yet, so you can use your head to clear out the zombies in the Magic City? The sound of gunfire was loud. Lu Yuanbin held a telescope in his hand and looked at the tide of corpses rushing towards the front position, and asked what's going on. Lu Jingyu felt unspeakably aggrieved. Facing Lu Yuanbin after questioning, he said bravely, report to the commander-in-chief, it should be that we have made too much noise in cleaning up the zombies nearby in the past few days, attracting all the zombies from nearby towns. Is it wrong to clear out zombies near military areas? It must be true, but who could have known that such a bad luck would attract hundreds of thousands of zombies from more than 10 nearby towns? The result is the current situation. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers are all blocked at the entrance of the military area, unable to get out even a step. Lu Yuanbin did not expect such a thing to happen. He put down the telescope in his hand, glanced at Lu Jingyu lightly, and said let's set off as soon as possible and use heavy firepower to get rid of these zombies as quickly as possible. Yes. The order was issued, and the rocket launchers behind them moved slowly. After arriving at the designated target point, the rocket launchers behind the rocket launchers were set up high, and dozens of black holes were filled with inexplicable deterrents. After reaching the set angle, as the operator pressed the launch button, and with a terrifying roar, rocket launchers shot out instantly. Dazzling firelight and a large amount of gunpowder smoke filled the air. Dozens of rocket launchers launched at the same time, and hundreds of rocket launchers pulled long. The long tail flame exploded in the sea of corpses. The terrifying flames engulfed everything within a radius of hundreds of meters. The terrifying high temperature vaporized the corpses of the zombies. The air waves exploded, and the zombies were lifted like rag dolls. It flew out and was disintegrated in the air. The support of rocket launchers and large-caliber howitzers swept the ground wildly. At this moment, the terrifying lethality of thermal weapons was fully demonstrated. Hundreds of thousands of injuries were quickly suppressed in the explosion. In addition, with the firepower of an entire infantry regiment on the battlefield, the tide of hundreds of thousands of corpses was completely crushed in less than 2 hours. Seeing all this through the telescope, Lu Jingyu breathed a sigh of relief and immediately ordered the first group army to move toward the Magic City is marching. The army is finally dispatched. Doomsday, I am the only one in the world who has superpowers. Author, Gugu Da. Chapter 135. Chapter 135 Society has never been fair from the beginning. Good, I'm so tired, my hands are going numb. Holding a pickaxe in her hand, Lu Minjiao wore a straw hat on her head, just like a village girl in a village. Under the straw hat, Lu Minjiao's forehead was covered with fine sweat. She was tired and hot, and her small face she was completely white. It has been 2 days. These 2 days, she was either washing cars or working in the fields, or transporting some steel. It is said that these steels are decomposed from scrap cars and will be useful in the future. Anyway, Lu Minjiao heard this. It was foggy. The summer sun in the Magic City can kill people. In order not to get tanned, Lu Minjiao wore a straw hat to protect herself from the sun, and her body was wrapped tightly. Although she would not get tanned due to the sunshade, it was extremely hot. Really? Wu Menfei, who was watering the water with a bucket, wiped the sweat on her head, looked at Lu Minjiao's appearance, and gasped, "You, come and water the water. I'll switch with you, and you can rest one time." Wu Menfei is dressed the same as Lu Minjiao, and she covers herself tightly. In the past 2 days, Wu Menfei has thought about finding Aunt Yu Yiren, but she has failed without exception. During work, she cannot leave her at will area, otherwise the consequences will be serious. You can't leave the work area, which means you have to wait for Aunt Yu Yiren to come over. This wait lasts for 2 days. In these 2 days, Wu Menfei, a group of fair and beautiful people who usually don't have their fingers touched, they have done all kinds of hard work. What is even more unfortunate is that the maid said that due to the lack of labor force, the top management is temporarily not considering recruiting new female warriors. This means that they do not even have a chance to choose. Wu Menfei is about to curse her. This is so unlucky. If given a choice, she and a group of little sisters would definitely choose to be female warriors. If nothing else, they are brave enough to fight with simple weapons. Zombie fighting, let alone sharp weapons like the Tang Dao. Having a noble background means that you have more time to learn more things. She and Lu Minjiao are learning fencing, and others, some of the little sisters are taekwondo, some are karate, and some have learned fighting skills from retired special forces. For example, Wang Xiaoming and Lu Zihao learned military fighting skills from the bodyguards at home. Although they were killed by the female soldiers as soon as they met. But this does not mean that they are really good. With weapons in their hands, 2 or 3 zombies will still be ignored. Even without weapons, zombies are no match. Dreams are good, but bad luck, usually with how sad is it that the little hands that used to play piano and other musical instruments elegantly can only carry buckets to water. Lu Mingjia was so tired that she handed the hoe to Wu Menfei, while she picked up the bucket. Compared to the hoe, the work of watering the ground will be easier. The two sisters have already taken turns several times. Otherwise, they probably won't be able to survive. Sister Fifei, do you think my mother knows that I am suffering? If you know, why don't you come to see me? Is it because I can't save face? I wouldn't mind holding the bucket, Lu Mingjia kept complaining. Everyone has the right to pursue happiness, not to mention that this is the end of the world. I don't want to let chickens and dogs ascend to heaven. At least they can pull us away from the maid. It's not like I can't support myself. Give me a Tang Dao and I can do it. Kill zombies, and sooner or later you will get to the top through your own efforts. Wu Menfei put down the hoe and wiped the fine sweat from her head. The expression on her face was also very confused. She was still a little confused about what was going on. What did Lu Mingjia's mother mean? Could it be that she didn't want a daughter? Will bringing a daughter affect her status there? But Wu Menfei just thought about it and didn't tell Lu Mingjia because she was afraid that Lu Mingjia wouldn't be able to accept it. On the second floor of the supermarket, Yu Yiren walked back and forth anxiously. It was 2 days in the blink of an eye. Watching Lu Mingjia suffer every day made her heart ache to death, but Lin Yu refused to let go, and she couldn't get over the hurdle, so she could only watch Lu Mingjia suffer. Li Yun took a sip of water and looked at Yu Yiren's appearance. She felt funny and didn't know what to say. Yu Yiren had to figure this out herself, otherwise it would be useless no matter how much she said. Everyone, her personality is different. She can face her daughter calmly in this capacity, but Yu Yiren's personality determines that she can't. Although Li Yun doesn't know if her daughter is still alive now, even if she has the intention to save her, she still feels that she has the intention to save her daughter. Powerless. She herself has no ability, and the only one she can rely on is Lin Fan, but what can she ask of Lin Fan? A slave asking the master to do something? Isn't this a joke? Li Yun can only pray in her heart that her daughter will be okay, and at the same time hope that Zhao Wanqing and other mistresses clean up faster. I said, Yiren, please calm down for a while. If you spin around a few more times, I will faint. Zhang Kaiyu pinched her eyebrows with a headache, and the expression on her face was very helpless. The speaker was unintentional, but the listener was intentional. Li Yun's heart moved, and she looked at the big sun outside, and then at Yu Yiren, who stopped dejectedly. Said intentionally or unintentionally, speaking of which, the weather is so hot now, and I don't know if those women in the field will suffer from heat stroke. After all, some women have never suffered and are delicate and frail. If anything happens. Yu Yiren lost her composure immediately after hearing this. She has held Lu Mingjia's daughter in her hands since she was a child. She has never suffered like this. Thinking about Lu Mingjia's pale face and shaky slender figure that she has seen in the past 2 days. Yu Yiren couldn't hold back any longer. Sister Yun, I have something to go out to see. Yu Yiren panicked. Motherly love defeated the hesitation of the unknown at this moment. Without caring about anything else, Yu Yiren changed her shoes and left the supermarket and went straight to the hospital. Seeing Yu Yiren walk away quickly, Zhang Kaiyu felt a little bit embarrassed. God, this is so good, why does it feel like a fire has burned your butt? Li Yun secretly laughed in her heart, put down the water glass, patted Zhang Kaiyu on the shoulder, and said softly, you are always waiting at home, I will go and watch the show. Zhang Kaiyu is not stupid either. Combining what Li Yun said just now with Yu Yiren's movements, she burst out laughing. Sister Yun, you are too bad. You are just a soft-tempered girl who is easy to bully. Besides, you are too panicked. Otherwise, you would never have fallen into the trap so easily. Li Yun, who had already walked to the door to change her shoes, glanced at her and hooked her slender fingers on the flesh-colored silk. The crystal-clear luster made even a woman like Zhang Kaiyu jump in her heart. You should still worry about yourself. Yiren has a daughter, but you don't? If you are brought back by the mistresses one day, think carefully about how to face it. Zhang Kaiyu looked stunned. What Li Yun said was indeed reasonable, but Zhang Kaiyu quickly calmed down. Her graceful figure leaned lazily on the sofa and chuckled. What's that? Tell her openly. If you can understand, just understand. If you don't understand, it will be the same as Yiren's daughter. Let her do hard work for a few days and she will understand everything. After all, this is the end of the world, a society where people eat people without order. Not only now, but also before the end, isn't it the same? It's just that it's not expressed so directly. Looking at Zhang Kaiyu in surprise, Li Yun didn't expect that this good sister has such a high level of ideological awareness, or that she thinks so clearly. In this regard, Zhang Kaiyu is similar to her, but she can see it more clearly than Yiren. If Yiren can see so clearly, she won't be like an ant on a hot pot for the past 3 days. Okay, as long as you can say, tomorrow it will be your turn to dress the robe for the Lord. I can't come every day. If you don't wear it well, I will see how the Lord will punish you. Smiling and scolding, Li Yun opened the door and walked out. On the sofa, Zhang Kaiyu's pretty face was slightly uncomfortable. She quietly took out her mobile phone and planned to find some information on the internet to learn. Speaking of which, the maids have cultivated land during this period. The farmland is still somewhat effective. There is greenery in a large area in the hospital area. Seedlings sprouted from the soil. They are watered frequently every day and are growing very well. Coming out of the supermarket, Yiren's face is full of greenery. With an anxious look, he casually called a maid, asked Lu Mingjia where they were, and rushed over anxiously. Looking at the familiar figure from behind, even if he didn't see the face, more than 10 meters apart, Yiren she also recognized that it was her daughter. Seeing Lu Mingjia being weighed down by the heavy bucket and unable to stand up straight, Yiren could not hold back and ran over quickly. Month after month. Lu Mingjia, who was struggling to carry the bucket to water the water, was suddenly startled. She heard the familiar voice behind her countless times in the past 10 years. Wu Menfei, who was holding the hoe, raised her head and saw Yiren standing a few meters away. Her face was indeed the same as Lu Mingjia's, almost carved from the same mold. Although not as exaggerated as the twins, the similarity was at least 8 points. Yu, your mother, you are here. Wu Menfei reminded her in a low voice. At this time, Lu Mingjia came back to her senses from the daze. After 2 days and almost 3 days, Yiren finally arrived. I don't know if it was because she had suffered too much in the past 2 days or if she was just imagining it. Yiren came to look for her so many times that Lu Mingjia didn't know how to turn around for a while. The maids in the farmland stopped what they were doing and looked at Lu Mingjia in a daze with envy. They had thought that this day would come, and they also knew that sooner or later Lu Mingjia and other fair and rich beauties would be taken away. Now that they saw the adult Yiren rushing over, they couldn't help but feel envious. They also wanted someone to take them away. No need I have to do this kind of tiring work again, but I can only think about it. There has been no fairness in this world from the beginning. Even if it is the end of the world, the class system will always exist. Lu Mingjia turned around, dumbfounded looking at Yiren who was standing a few meters away. The fatigue of several days and the depression and complaints in his heart broke out at this moment. With tears and unspeakable grievances, he dropped the bucket and rushed towards Yiren. Mom, why did you come here? Looking at Lu Mingjia's pale face and drizzle of sweat on her head, and then hearing her baby daughter's crying and aggrieved words, Yiren's eyes became hot, and her tears fell on the spot. She hugged Lu Minjiao, who rushed over. Yiren quickly comforted her baby daughter, who kept sobbing in her arms. Yu, it's your mother's fault. She came late. She should have come earlier. It's just that there are some obstacles that you can't get through, which makes you suffer. Mom, I'll take you away now. Those ones over there are your sisters, right? Mom will take you all away. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday, I am the only one in the world who has superpowers. Author, Gugu Da. Chapter 136. Chapter 136, This chain is so beautiful. Is it such a big deal? She cried out all the complaints in her heart. After hearing Yu Yiren's words, Lu Minjiao quickly raised her head, looking at Yu Yiren with hope on her face, and asked, Mom, can you really take us all away? The maid said that the rules here are very strict. If it brings trouble to mother, we can continue to stay here. Although she wants to leave here, Lu Minjiao is not a stupid child. Compared with these, she is more worried his own mother was punished. In the past 2 days, she had learned a lot of rules, which were all told to her by the maids, including various punishments. She did not want her mother to be punished because of this incident. The Baifume who were standing with Wu Menfei also fell silent when they heard this. Although they all wanted to get out of here, they didn't want to cause Lu Minjiao's mother to suffer because of their own selfishness. They are all well educated, they know right from wrong, and they also understand what interests are. Yu Yiren is undoubtedly a big tree for them. As long as Yu Yiren does not fall, based on their relationship with Lu Minjiao, they can be assigned some not very good people. Hard work. They knew that Yui people had this right. On the contrary, if Yu Yiren was punished for this incident and accidentally fell down, their fate would not be much better. Yu Yiren was very happy to hear Lu Minjiao say this. After all, her daughter has grown up and knows how to think about others. But since she dares to say it, it means that she can do it. These rights are granted by Lin Yuyu, the master. Given to them. In Lin Yuyu's words, even if they are just maids serving daily life, their status is higher than everyone else when they walk out of the supermarket. Wiping the droplets of tears or sweat on Lu Minjiao's face, Yu Yiren smiled slightly, with indescribable tenderness. Don't worry, this kind of right is given by the mistress, and it's okay to take you away. Having said this, Yu Yiren looked at Wu Menfei and others, waved and said, your name is Fifei, right? Come all of you, thanks to your help during this period, otherwise you would not know whether I would be able to see her. To my mother. Wu Menfei and the others looked at each other, and finally put down the tools in their hands and walked out of the farmland. They stood aside cautiously, looking at the bright clothes on Yu Yiren's body, and then at the clothes stained with mud and sweat on her own body. They didn't dare to lean too much. Recently. This is the first time since she was born that Wu Menfei has felt the status gap and inferiority complex. Before the end of the world, she was Baifume with a net worth of billions, but now she is a lowly maid. If she were not a good friend of Lu Minjiao's sisters, you are not even qualified to stand up. Auntie, you are serious. Yu is smart and capable. We all help each other, no one takes care of others. Lu Minjiao didn't think so much. Listening to Yuyi's familiar address, and even the name was correct, she became more and more confused. Mom, did you really know we were here? When Yu Yiren heard this, she nodded silently. Lu Minjiao immediately understood, but she did not ask further questions. She knew that with Yu Yiren's love for her, if there was no reason, he would definitely have come to find her long ago. With a glance, Lu Minjiao seemed to have discovered some new world. Mom, your necklace is pretty good looking, and this chain is not bad either. With a casual grab, Lu Minjiao pulled the long silver chain out of her collar. Lu Mingjia was stunned immediately, her eyes looking a little dazed. This is not a fashion item, isn't it? Yu Yiren also didn't expect that Lu Mingjia put the key things on the table casually. She didn't know what to say for a moment. Wu Menfei and others next to her were also stunned. They all obviously recognized what it was, especially Wu Menfei. With a flash of inspiration, Wu Menfei remembered that it seemed that Li Yun she saw that day also had this on her neck. She had not thought about it carefully before, but now looking at Yu Yiren's expression, she understood everything. Sometimes, things often don't develop according to people's established routes, just like now. Pulling the silver chain in her hand, Yu Yiren, who was thinking about how to explain, subconsciously moved her neck twice, and she woke up at that time. Mom, are you playing so big? Not to mention, it feels good to pull it twice. I thought only the younger generation would play like this, but I didn't expect you to be so trendy. Lu Mingjia was smiling and playing with the silver chain in her hand. Yu Yiren looked confused. Not far away, she felt that something was not going well. Li Yun, who had just approached, almost slipped and fell. After standing firm, then not to mention how weird his expression was. Ren Liun thought about many situations, but she never expected that Lu Mingjia would say this. Wu Menfei's face was filled with tears. What does it mean that the younger generation can play this game? She has never played this before, and she has never thought about it. I never thought that when I looked at your innocent big eyes, I didn't expect you to be like Lu Mingjia. As expected, all natural cuts are black. You, don't you mind? What I said is, Yu Yiren didn't know what to say. Putting his arms around Yu Yiren, Lu Mingjia patted her back gently and comforted Mom, no matter why you brought this, you can understand it. It's no better than before. Mom, you won't feel comfortable wearing this now, are you happy? Yu Yiren shook her head. If it weren't for Lu Mingjia, she would have accepted the setting of a noble lady a long time ago. As long as it can make Lin Fan happy, so what? Lu Mingjia breathed a sigh of relief, raised her head and said, since Mom is willing, why do you think so much? It's the end of the world. It would be great if Mom can be happy. Mom, you should think more about yourself. Yu Yiren, I didn't expect this result. Is there really such a big ideological gap between her and young people? Mom, let me ask you something. What's up? Looking at Lu Mingjia's expression, Yu Yiren suddenly had a bad feeling. Mom, I heard that the master is very handsome. I have no other meaning. I just want to ask, how is it? Is Mom satisfied? Lu Mingjia looked curious. She had heard that there were many mistresses. In her understanding, men and women had different structures. She was a little afraid that Yu Yiren, who had been a widow for 10 years, would continue to live like that. Yu Yi's face turned red, and she slapped Lu Mingjia angrily. Damn girl, you really deserve a beating. Li Yun walked over quickly, looked at the mother and daughter who were having fun together, turned her eyes to the farmland, and said with a majestic tone, the rest time is not short, and the good show is almost done. It's time to work. The maids woke up one after another and quickly lowered their heads to work hard. When Wu Menfei and others saw Li Yun coming, they quickly bowed their heads and saluted. Li Yun waved her hands, looked at the mother and daughter who had stopped playing, and said with a smile, you don't need so much. Sorry, you are all Yu's friends, just call me Aunt from now on. Wu Menfei and others were overjoyed. Li Yun's words undoubtedly gave them another supporter. Thank you, Aunt Li. Listening to the names of Wu Menfei and others, Li Yun nodded, turned to look at Lu Mingjia, and saw that she had a curious look on her face. He raised his hand and pinched her little face, and said with a chuckle, little girl, what do you want? No, your mother and I are not qualified yet. The Lord has never touched us. Our job is to wash and cook and wait for the Lord to dress and wash. As for the issue of ability, even with you little girls, it probably won't be enough for the boss. Is there any problem? Sister Yun, what did you say? Teach bad children. Yu Yiren pulled Li Yun with a smile on her face. For a conservative woman, she still felt a little embarrassed when she said this outside. Lu Minjiao was different. Her face was full of curiosity, but Li Yun also stopped. After Lu Minjiao and others went to the dormitory to get their clothes, they walked towards the female warriors' dormitory. On the way, Li Yun told Lu Minjiao and the others what happened after the apocalypse, while Yu Yiren lowered her head and did not speak. After Li Yun's story, Lu Minjiao also understood what was going on with the collar, and hugged Yu Yiren distressedly. After settling Wu Menfei and others, Li Yun and Yu Yiren sat for a while and then left. Although they had the right to put Lu Yiren, Minjiao and the others brought them out, but they still had to report to Lin Yuyu, and get Tang Dao by the way. The path of female warriors is undoubtedly the most promising one at the moment. Other than that, they have to enter the inner circle. In this regard, the qualifications are not enough, let alone Lu Minjiao and the others. The female warriors Wang Ziwen, Lu Yuer and others have been eyeing them. There are also the recently emerging Jasmine, Zhou Ziyan and the fierce Yerulan who dares to touch Lin Fan. Their competitiveness it's very big. After much thought, I decided to go to the female warrior first and then climb up step by step. This way, it would be easier to be noticed and the future would be brighter. Back on the second floor, Li Yun and Yu Yiren both thought suddenly. On the sofa in the living room, Lin Yuyu came back without knowing when. She was leaning on the sofa and meditating on something, while Zhang Kaiyu stood beside her and waited carefully with her head lowered. The noise of the two people coming in was loud. Lin Yuyu, after coming back to his senses, he glanced at the two of them with a flat gaze and said calmly back. All done? Those little girls are really good. When Li Yun and Yu Yiren heard this, they were shocked and quickly knelt on the ground. Yu Yiren was the first to admit his mistake and said, Mistress, it was all my own fault. Please punish me, mistress. This matter has nothing to do with Sister Yun. Yu Yiren felt uneasy. Lin Yuyu had indeed given this right, but are you trying to reason with the higher UPS? Do you know what it means to accompany a king like a tiger? Don't care whether what you did is right or not, it is definitely right to admit your mistake and accept the punishment first. The higher UPS don't like it the most. What I want is to listen to your explanations and quibbles. To put it simply, are you teaching me how to do things? With a wave of his hand, Yu Yi and Li Yun, who were kneeling on the ground, stood up uncontrollably. Lin Yuyu glared at them lightly and said, Do I look like that forgetful person? Or do I look like someone who doesn't mean what he says? Since the rights have been given to you, I won't punish you for this kind of thing, and those girls are indeed good. Do you think I can't see your state these days? So I haven't considered the issue of distribution these days, so you can stay calm. Yu Yiren understands everything now. Why does the senior management feel that the labor force is small? This is a typical tease for her. Fortunately, she couldn't help it today. Otherwise, she doesn't know how long Lu Minjiao, the daughter, will have to suffer. Li Yun is also drumming in her heart. And at the same time, there was indescribable awe in my heart. It turned out that everything they did was under Lin Yuyu's nose, and there was no way to hide it. Since you are bent on punishing, I will punish you for this crime of deception. Li Yun and Yu Yiren's heart sank at the same time, and they felt a little bitter. Looking at the time, Lin Yuyu had a smile in her eyes. She couldn't see the bitterness in Li Yun and Yu Yiren's eyes. Your Majesty will be back soon. Your Majesty has been quite tired these past few days. You guys can give him a good wash in a while and relieve your fatigue. If you can't handle it, just go back to where you came from. Doomsday, I am the only one in the world who has superpowers. Author, Gugu Da. Chapter 137. Chapter 137 The God at the Top of the Pyramid, Arbitration Team. Lin Fan has been tinkering with the city wall for the past 2 days, and he is indeed a little tired. The city wall is also a delicate job, not only energy consuming, but also a serious loss of energy. But looking at the successfully completed city wall in front of him, Lin Fan felt that the busy days were worth it. Holding Suzyalogo in his arms, Lin Fan stood 1,000 meters above the ground, overlooking the 4 magnificent and thick city walls below him, east, west, north and south, spanning 20 kilometers, protecting the huge inner city. The 15-meter-high city wall almost became there is an insurmountable chasm. At this height, both zombies and ground troops in the military area will be in despair. Spectacular. It's so spectacular. Overlooking the inner city, in 2 days, after unremitting efforts, the streets had been cleaned up, the congested vehicles that could still be driven were taken away, and those that could not be driven were broken down into alloy steel plates by Lin Yuyu. As for the large number of zombie corpses on the ground, they have all been cleaned up. Now the streets are smooth and smooth. Except for the dirty blood on the ground that cannot be cleaned up in a short time, other aspects have been almost done to the best. If nothing unexpected happens, it will be officially open to traffic tomorrow, which will save Zhao Wanqing and the others from having to run 20 kilometers back and forth every day, which is such a waste of time. System, open the My Properties panel. For 2 days, Lin Fan was busy building the city wall and did not go out to kill zombies. However, he did level up several times during this period and his points seem to have increased a lot. He has not yet checked the specific number. Character, Lin Fan. Strength, 201. Agility, 200. Intelligence, 214. Physique, 220. Points, 63,360. Ability, Magnetic Field Control LV7 Lightning Control LV7 Plant Control LV6 Earth Element Control Level 6 Demon Cat LV6. Experience, 3749/10W, 9237/10W, 7235/10,000, 7015/10,000, 3152/10,000 Items owned. Flying Knife. The remaining 3 have all reached level 6. The difference lies in the amount of experience, especially in terms of points. In 2 days, they have increased by more than 10,000 to close to 50,000. This is enough to show how hard the women have worked in the past 2 days. The army of nearly 1,000 female warriors can rack up points very quickly. Even after waiting for 2 days, they can directly reach the 100,000 mark. At that time, you can exchange it for a high-level ability. Space Control, Time Control, and the Power of Destiny are all bug-level abilities. Feeling excited, Lin Fan lowered his head and kissed Suzyalogo's cheek twice. Seeing the little loli's happy face, Lin Fan laughed and said, "Let's go home for dinner." In the past 2 days, Suzyalogo rubbed her ears and temples together every day. Xiaoluo, a legal Lolita, is getting more and more courageous. Even now, she doesn't feel ashamed to be intimate with Lin Fan in front of Lin Yuyu and others. She has made great progress. The figure turned into thunder and disappeared into the sky, and the sunset on the horizon exuded the last remaining warmth. Back home, Lin Fan let go of Suzyalogo. On the sofa, Lin Yuyu's familiar figure came into view. He was holding a piece of paper in his hand and seemed to be looking at something. "My lord, will I wait for you to wash up?" Yu Yi and Li Yun, who were kneeling next to them, raised their heads and looked up at Lin Fan. This was usually a normal scene, but Lin Fan felt a little strange today no matter how he looked at it. What's wrong with the faces of these 2 women? Lin Fan didn't know that more than half an hour ago. What did Lin Yuyu say to them? At first Yu Yi and Li Yun thought it was some kind of punishment, but the result made them confused. Is this punishment? No matter how you look at it, it looks like a reward, right? The two girls who were confused could only acquiesce that it was punishment. However, they still liked the punishment. However, they never dared to make mistakes. They might be really punished next time. They didn't want to test Lin Yuyu's bottom line. After running around outside for a day, although he didn't do much, Suzyalogo ran to the sofa and collapsed, instantly turning into a little salted fish. Glancing over the sofa, Lin Fan felt something was wrong, but he didn't say anything and let the two women take a shower. On the sofa, watching Lin Fan walk into the bathroom, Lin Yuyu twitched her corners slightly, but it disappeared quickly. Putting down the information in her hand, Lin Yuyu half leaned and looked at the little salted fish Suzyalogo, and asked, "Aren't you going to sleep with us tonight?" Suzyalogo, who was originally lazy, became energetic in an instant and read. Looking over at the restroom, my little face was so wet that I couldn't even form a complete sentence. He's not a child anymore, what's wrong with him? It's been a long time in line over there. It doesn't matter if you wait any longer. But are you sure you still want to wait? After all, if you wait, others will not wait. Suzyalogo immediately got angry after hearing this. He raised his head and looked at Lin Yuyu with big eyes. His bulging face looked like a stingy bun. That's absolutely not possible. Is there anyone who comes first? Taking the warm water handed over by John Kaiyu, Lin Yuyu took a sip and said calmly, "What does it mean to be on a first come, first served basis? Why don't you say respect the old and love the young? In what age are you still telling you this? I've said everything that needs to be said, just think about it slowly. Kaiyu, go cook. You are alone today. You should be a little tired. Do your job well and I won't treat you badly." John Kaiyu was still envious of Li Yun and Yu Yiren. When she heard Lin Yuyu's words, she immediately understood. She quickly knelt down on the ground and said gratefully, "Thank you, mistress." Glancing at John Kaiyu lightly, Lin Yuyu nodded slightly, "Go ahead." John Kaiyu happily ran to the kitchen to prepare dinner. Lin Yuyu leaned lazily on the sofa, supported her head with one hand, closed her eyes and began to doze off. Next to her, Suzyalogo's eyes were so pouted that they could hang an oil pot. He chattered around and soon became determined. While Lin Fan was taking a comfortable bath, Zhao Wanqing, Li Saiki and others rushed back one after another, said hello to Lin Yuyu, and went straight to the various bathrooms. Lin Yuyu, the royal empress, was at home. Li Saiki didn't dare to go straight to the living room without washing up. Not long after, Lin Fan walked out with a happy face. At the door of the bathroom, Li Yun and Yu Yiren supported each other and staggered back to the master bedroom. "I didn't have the energy to eat dinner. I walked to the sofa and sat down." Lin Fan picked up Lin Yuyu and put it in his arms. He lowered his head and kissed her little cheek. "Why did you think of arranging arrangements for the two of them today?" Glancing at Lin Fan with a charming look, Lin Yuyu found a comfortable position and leaned on Lin Fan's shoulder, and said softly, "Sooner or later, this day will come. It seems that the Lord is quite happy. Are collars fun? Is the chain easy to hold?" Lin Fan coughed twice. The more than an hour in the bathroom was indeed more pleasant. Unlike Lin Yuyu and Li Yun, Lin Fan was able to let go of his hands and feet, and accidentally had fun. During the bathing time, it was a bit long, and the two women were so tired that they didn't want to eat. Seeing that Lin Fan was not able to speak, Lin Yuyu did not continue to ask questions. She just knew some things in her heart. She was very satisfied if Lin Fan could be happy. This proved that you're right. Lin Fan has never been able to be restrained by any woman. Lin Yuyu has known this for a long time. In this case, she will arrange as much as possible. Anyway, with Lin Fan's ability, he won't be able to handle it. Come. But in the end, it is women like them who Lin Fan loves the most. Call, it feels so comfortable after taking a shower. Lee Saiki walked over from a distance and came to Lin Fan's side with a smile. Since there is no room for her in his arms, it would be good to kneel next to him and hold Lin Fan's big cock. Lord, I brought back more than 200 women today. Am I powerful? Seeing Lee Saiki looking for praise, Lin Fan pinched her little face and said with a smile, awesome, very awesome. Did you encounter any trouble today? Lee Saiki wrinkled her little nose and hummed, it's just a little trouble. A group of gangsters want to threaten me with a gun. I really don't know how to write the word death. My ant is just a wall of dirt. Those people are all dumbfounded. Then I kicked them one by one and crushed them all into meat pies. After hearing Lee Saiki's narration, Lin Fan touched his nose. How could such a cute girl be so violent? As for being trampled into meat pies, this was Lee Saiki's sudden ability to condense the earth elements to form a giant, which was about 10. She was sitting inside the giant's head and controlling it. Its destructive power and defensive power were ridiculously strong. Lin Fan could now imagine the expressions of those who threatened Lee Saiki with guns when they saw the stone giant more than 10 meters tall. It must be shock, confusion, and despair. After a while, Zhao Wanqing and the other two people walked out one after another, and the living room that had been quiet all day suddenly became lively. Zhang Kaiyu was the only one who prepared dinner, which was indeed a bit slow. It was around 8 o'clock in the evening. After dinner, Zhao Wanqing and the others already knew about Li Yun and the others, so they were not surprised. On the contrary, Suzialuo was a little depressed, and the women didn't pay much attention. After dinner, Lin Fan originally wanted to play games, but Lin Fan Yuya walked over solemnly, still holding some information in her hand. She looked at Lin Yuya doubtfully. Normally, Lin Yuya should be studying system issues with Zhao Wanqing and the others at this time. Now that she came here with the information, could it be done? The fact is just as Lin Fan guessed. After Lin Yuya sat down, Zhao Wanqing and the others also sat next to them. Lord, we have been studying in the past few days and have produced some results. Regarding the system and management system, how about you listen to it and tell us the shortcomings, and we can improve it. Lin Fan put down his phone and nodded. This is related to the future development of the power, and Lin Fan still attaches great importance to it. You tell me, I'm listening. Opening the folder and looking at the contents above, Lin Yuya read first of all, there is the class system, from LV1 to LV9, with LV1 being the lowest and LV9 being the highest. The female warriors are used as the template here. From low to high are maids, etc. warrior, squad leader, squadron leader, captain, commander, legion commander, arbitration team, and the highest level 9, God. There is only one God, and that is the Lord. He is the highest in the pyramid sequence and the only one. He is the supreme leader of the entire force. Starting from the maid, the highest status can theoretically reach the position of Legion Commander, while the arbitration group is below the gods. Absolutely, the ruling body can unconditionally decide the life and death of people below level 8 within the force, including the Legion Commander. The members of the arbitration group can only be composed of people who have been given divine power by you. Some of the vases that the Lord will play with in the future are not in the sequence. Guangxu Pyramid is divided into different levels. We have also designed special uniforms and medals. Next, we will start from the maid selected a tailor to finish the clothes. The battle uniform is composed of black and white. The coat is entirely white and the inner lining is black. It is modeled after a death from Zanmei. It is quite excellent both in appearance and combat. On the collar are medals representing status, among which the female warrior is a golden star, up to 4 for the captain, the LV6 commander is a golden crescent moon, the LV7 legion commander is a golden sun, and the LV8 arbitration on the medal is a golden sword of judgment. This is a class split based on the template of female warriors. As for the others, we will not consider them, because there is no high or low profession. It depends on the fate of those maids in the future. If they perform outstandingly, they can be promoted. Those who are not capable will be promoted. Stay at the bottom level 1 honestly. After saying all this in one breath, Lin Yu looked at Lin Fan and asked, "My lord, do you think this is okay?" Lin Fan looked at Lin Yu in confusion and wondered, "Is it over?" It's over. Does your lord think there's something wrong?" Lin Yu is a little confused. Where is the god of level 9? Level 2 to level 8 all have things to identify their identity, but what about me? Am I such a godless person? Doomsday, I am the only one in the world who has superpowers. Author, Gugu Da. Chapter 138. Chapter 138. Is this more than just a show? This is so impressive. Poof. Ha 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 ha. Lord, you actually care about this. A group of women laughed out loud. Lin Fan was helpless. Is there something wrong with this? LV9 doesn't even have a symbol. Is this okay? So, why are you laughing? Looking at Lin Fan's confused look, Lin Yu patted his heart. Took a breath and said, as the top level 9 of our force, of course the Lord has a card. Your appearance will appear in every corner of the force in the form of photos, biographies, statues, etc. Your appearance will be like it's the same brand, engraved in every woman's heart. We will also arrange for a dedicated person to write your biography, such as what you have done, what miracles you have performed, when you met us, and the divine power you were given. These will be written down in the biography in detail. How can you say that you have no cards? Your card does not need to be displayed with some badges, your appearance will be engraved in every woman's mind like a legacy and a brand. Listening to Lin Yu's narration, everyone in Lin was stunned. Good guy, you've played a big role. Level 9 is a god. You really have to create a god, right? There are statues and photos of him everywhere. This is outrageous if it is true, and it is even more outrageous if there is a biography. The cards are really big enough. How about it? Is the Lord satisfied with this arrangement? Looking at Lin Yu, who was smiling sweetly and with boundless love in her eyes, Lin Fan was speechless. If you are satisfied, what is there to be dissatisfied with? If you are not satisfied, you will all go to heaven. Okay, go on. Lin Yu lowered her head and turned to the second page. The next step is the promotion rules, which are reviewed by senior executives 2 levels higher. For example, a maid at level 1 wants to become a female warrior, or applies to advance to other professions at level 2. You need at least a L3 team leader or another L3 reviewer to assess whether you are qualified. Auditors are selected by the arbitration group. The lowest level is LV3 and the highest level is LV6. The commander of LV6 and the legion commander of LV7 are directly appointed and removed by the arbitration group or you. This is a corresponding promotion system. The Lord feels that there are areas that need to be modified. Looking at Lin Yu's questioning look, Lin Fan waved his hand, indicating for her to continue. Then there is the task system and currency system. Since the promulgation of this policy, a currency system has been implemented. Every month, as long as the maids complete the designated tasks on time, they can get a salary of 4,000 currency. If you want to get extra, you can work part-time. At the same time, you will receive the security fee, which is their residence qualification fee. Water, electricity, and personal safety, totals 1,000. Wonking and I have calculated this. After deducting these and food, the maids can save at least about 1,000 a month. If they want to live a better life than others, they must either work harder or choose to be promoted so that they can buy high-end hotels, cosmetics, eat better food. Excluding maids, L2 female warriors have a basic guaranteed salary of 2,000 yuan. At the same time, the more zombies you kill, the higher the reward. Killing a zombie rewards you with 10 yuan. As long as you work hard, the salary of female warriors is still not low. This rule applies to LV5 captains. From the commander of LV6 to the commander of LV7, depending on the level of cleanup and the number of zombies killed, corresponding monetary rewards will be given at a discount of 3% to 5%. There is no guaranteed salary. Outside the female warrior system, salary assessments are determined by review agencies. After saying this, Lin Yu looked at Lin Fan and asked, "My lord, do you think this arrangement is okay?" Lin Fan waved his hand and signaled continue. Lin Fan still knew in his heart. These are the things that Lin Yu and the others worked hard for several days. What the hell does he know? In fact, after listening to it for so long, he felt a little lucky in his heart. Fortunately, Lin Yu and the others were able to do this. If he had to do it by himself, he would rather not use his power or waste his brains. Turning to the third page, Lin Yu breathed a sigh of relief. This was the last content. Fortunately, all her efforts these days were gone. It was not in vain. Lin Fan did not deny her efforts. Otherwise, her abilities would not improve and there would be no corresponding success. She would probably cry. The next step is to make good use of talented people. In the next period of time, a group of women with real talents and practical skills will be selected from the maids, talented people from all walks of life, and then the ecological circle of the inner city will be restored and the entire inner city will be restored. Rejuvenate, entertainment cities, hotels, clothing stores, etc. can also reopen. These fixed assets can be taken care of by these women, and the final ownership rights are still in our hands. Depending on their income, we will give them corresponding wages. At the same time, we can also sell the fixed assets in our hands, such as houses, if the women save enough. With the money, you can buy an apartment in the inner city. I believe there are many women who are tired of living in dormitories. Housing is only one of them, and cars are also among them. Even after our ecosystem is perfected, we can build our own vehicles and form an industrial chain. As long as the initial difficult period is overcome, the inner city should soon develop. The next problem is currency. My lord, are you ready? Speaking of this, Lin Yu looked at Lin Fan. After all, Lin Fan took over the problem of currency in a big way a few days ago. If Lin Fan says that he has forgotten or can't do it now, Lin Yu will at least have prepared all this. Half of them will be stranded. Money is the most indispensable thing for a force to develop. It cannot develop without money, but without motivation, sooner or later someone will be lazy. Money is the motivation for people to work. If you want to get more money, if you want to live a better life, you can only work hard. When it came to the issue of money, Lin Fan didn't give Lin Yu a headache. When he mentioned what he was good at, Lin Fan immediately perked up. I have already solved the currency problem. You tell me what to do. Lin Yu breathed a sigh of relief and turned to look at Zhao Wanqing. She was not prepared for this aspect. She was not very clear about it. Zhao Wanqing cleared her throat and opened the folder in her hand. Regarding currency, based on the number of people in our current force, we will tentatively decide on 10 million banknotes. The currencies from low to high are 10 cents, 50 cents, 1 yuan, 5 yuan, 10 yuan, 20 yuan, and 50 yuan. Money and $100, banknotes capped with $100. As for the ratio, the first 5 levels total 5 million cards, and the 20 yuan, 50 yuan, and 100 yuan total 5 million cards. Zhao Wanqing startled Lin Fan when she opened her mouth. There were only 10 million banknotes. Not to mention that the money printing machine required 1,000 points to buy. 10 points would cost 10,000 blank banknotes. 10 million banknotes would cost 10,000 points. This adds up. 1.1 W points are gone. This is still at this stage. When there are more people behind, I will probably have to print. Lin Fan is paralyzed. It seems that he can only think about space powers in a short time. As for points, sooner or later it's worth spending, don't panic at all. Okay, I will arrange this. As for the people who print the money, you need to arrange it yourself. Is there anything else you want to say? Lin Fan agreed happily, and Zhao Wanqing and the others were relieved. Lin Yu thought for a moment and said the Lord has another question, which is how to calculate the female warriors' killing of zombies. After all, the salary of female warriors is calculated. It also depends on the number of zombies killed. I need to trouble you to see if I can get a counter for this. With our current conditions, it is very difficult to achieve that. If there were no counters, the wages of female warriors would have to be changed, and the subsequent squad leaders would also need to be changed. Counter. Lin Fan thought for a while. This question is simple, just ask the system. System, give me a money printing machine and 10 million blank banknotes. Can you solve the other counter for me? 10 points of the counter can be exchanged for 1. It will display the number of zombies killed by the female warriors. It is solar charged and durable. Its defense is equivalent to a 10 cm thick steel plate. Ding. After deducting 11,000 points, the money printing machine and 10.01 million banknotes have been stored in your personal space. The points were instantly reduced by more than 10,000, and Lin Fan felt a little bad. There are now more than 700 female warriors. This has not increased in the past 2 days. The number of female servants has increased sharply in the past few days, bringing back 200 to 300 every day. The number of people was even bigger today. Li Saiqi brought back 200 to 300 by herself, without even asking Zhao Wanqing and the others. For half points, they need at least 500 or 600 female warriors, right? With 10 points and a counter, this will cost another 10,000. If you spend more points, it doesn't count Tang Dao, otherwise it would be 20,000. It took a lot of effort to save more than 60,000 points, but half of them will be lost in the blink of an eye. Lin Fan is numb. This money is like running water. But he believes that, these points will definitely be earned back faster. This is all I can do to comfort myself. In fact, there is another question that Lin Fan hasn't asked yet. He has been bored to death with the construction of city walls these days. He has become a construction worker. Okay, is this reasonable? He is the leader of a big force, so what's the point of building a city wall every day? He hasn't asked the system whether it can build a city wall. If it can, he can save a lot of trouble. Sir, the system can help you build a city wall. At your current scale, it costs 100 points per kilometer, which is high quality and low price. Lin Fan's head is a bit big. 100 points per kilometer is very cheap, isn't it? But how many kilometers are there now? A total of 80 kilometers from east to west, south to north, that's 8,000 points. What about the future? It will definitely be longer in the future, right? Wouldn't that cost more points? The most important thing is to examine the question. What is the current scale? That is a LV6 city wall with 100 points per kilometer. What if the defense power is LV7? Lin Fan doesn't dare after thinking about it. More than 60,000 points are just a cloud, not enough to spend at all. Sighing, Lin Fan felt that in the short term, he could only buy low-level abilities and high-level abilities. Let's wait a little longer. System, redeem 778 counters for me. Ding, 7,780 points have been deducted and the counter has been sent to your personal space. Looking at the points, there were originally more than 60,000 points. In the blink of an eye, only 44,580 were left, which was reduced by nearly 1/3. But it doesn't matter, take your time, there will be bread, and there will be points. With the palm of your hand, then, a counter like a watch appeared in his hand. In fact, This thing was really a watch. It also showed the time. The most outrageous thing was that it had coordinates. In fact, this was not the most outrageous thing. What Lin Fan found most outrageous was that such a small thing is powered by solar energy, and its defense is equivalent to a 10 cm steel plate. The defense of this thing can withstand a cannon. Are you telling me that this thing is strong and durable? Isn't this a matter of durability? This thing can kill the user for countless generations. Really? It will be passed down from generation to generation. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday, I am the only one in the world who has superpowers. Author, Gugu Da. Chapter 139. Chapter 139 Zhao Yanyan's surprising discovery. This is the counter. As for the money printing machine, I won't take it out for the time being. I'll give it to you when you use it tomorrow to save you trouble. Taking the counter handed over by Lin Fan, Lin Yuyu and Zhao Wanqing studied it for a long time. It looked like an electronic watch, but since Lin Fan said so, there must be no problem. There must be no problem, anyway. 10 points, how could there be a problem? Do you have anything else to say? If you have nothing to say, I will. Playing games, Lin Fan picked up the phone and made some gestures. He was almost numb. In a moment, he went in to get 20,000 points. He was afraid that the women would say something else. His 40,000 points were not enough. Looking at Lin Fan, although Lin Yuyu and the girls didn't know why, they always found Fan to be careful. Lin Fan didn't have such an expression at ordinary times. Most of the time, he was lazy. At first, he was still cold, which looked very impressive. Fear. Everything is fine here, but where is Wanqing? Zhao Wanqing straightened her hair beside her ears and said seriously, I really have some problems here. Lin Fan was stunned. Do you still have it? Lin Yuyu was also stunned and looked at Zhao Wanqing in confusion. In fact, it's not a big deal. Zhou Ziyan, you all should know that her dark fragrance bar was surrounded by all sides before, but now all three parties have been destroyed by us, only the Zhao brothers in the north are left, but today I will take when people passed by, the building there was already empty. I wonder if they were scared away. I just feel like this is a bit bizarre, but it's not a big deal. What did Lin Fan think was going on? That's all. He was not even interested in a small force. It doesn't matter, let's clean it up slowly. If he can run out of the magic city and show me. If he can't escape, he will die at our hands sooner or later. If he can hide from the first grade of junior high school, can he still hide from the 15th grade? Anything else? I can play ranked without me. If I don't bully those King of Glory for a day, I feel unhappy. There is no way. Who made Lin Fan's skills poor before the end? That is to say, Diamond Boy was wandering around every day. Now that all aspects are fierce, he naturally wants to clean up those King of Glory. Lin Fan just said, there are too many. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhao Yanyan raised her hand, and then looked at Lin Fan's pained eyes and said, My lord, I still have questions. Now Lin Fan suddenly felt like the two Thors in the Avengers, let's get some Brazilian girls. Then Ultron raised his hand, and thousands of younger brothers appeared. How were those people in the Avengers feeling at that time? He is now whatever mood you're in. Why can't you control this guy? Of course, even if he didn't say anything, Zhao Yanyan would definitely speak up. Putting down the phone, Lin Fan sat up straight. Zhao Yanyan was different from Zhao Wanqing. They were basically very professional. Less participation in decision-making. Now that Zhao Yanyan has spoken, she must have something to say. You say. Zhao Yanyan opened her palms. Lin Fan looked over and saw a blue liquid-like water ball appearing in the sky above Zhao Yanyan's palms. It was about the size of a pigeon egg, but it was not oval. The blue liquid water ball emitted there is a strange smell. What's this? Feeling this strange aura, Lin Fan was confused. Lin Yu and others also looked at Zhao Yanyan curiously. The meaning was self-evident. Zhao Yanyan looked at the water ball in her hand with complicated eyes and recalled what happened today. This is also my unexpected discovery today. While cleaning up zombies, a team member was accidentally scratched. There was zombie blood on it, which means it contained zombie viruses. As the captain, I naturally couldn't watch her transform into a corpse. Then I tried to use supernatural powers to heal her. No matter whether it worked or not, I had to give it a try. But to my surprise, the plant-based supernatural powers could actually absorb the zombie virus, and then this thing in my hand appeared, but not so big. The amount of virus at that time was less than the size of a grain of rice. The zombie virus had already spread partially. When the virus was extracted, the injured parts of the female warrior had dried up, like dry bark. It felt like the nutrition of that area. It's like it's all been absorbed. I didn't expect that plant powers could break zombie viruses. I was surprised at this. Then something even more surprising happened to me. After I used plant powers to purify the virus, this happened. As he spoke, Zhao Yanyan spread out her left hand, and a green liquid sphere of the same size appeared, and at the same time, streams of rich life energy spread out. This is the purified crystal of the virus, a strange energy that can strengthen the body and enhance the overall quality. At that time, I transferred the purified energy on my left hand to the injured area of the female warrior, and then the injured area of the female warrior was visible speed recovery. It's like going back in time, taking back all the life force that was just plundered. Lin Fan had an incredible look on his face. What does this mean? Can plant-type powers break zombie viruses? Isn't this too outrageous? Since acquiring plant-type powers, Lin Fan has never studied it at all. Sure enough, only when he arrived only in the hands of the most suitable person can real light and heat be exerted. Of course, Lin Fan will not think about saving the world. He is not a savior, let alone, why should he? The zombie virus can only be eliminated by using plant-type powers. Could it be that he did nothing all day long and just sat there detoxifying people? He must be crazy. Not only Lin Fan looked incredulous, but even Lin Yu and the others were shocked. Doesn't that mean that the zombie virus will not be unsolvable in the future? What about those zombies? Can it be restored to its original state? Lin Yu looked in awe, looked Zhao Yanyan up and down, and joked, if you don't say anything else, just with this ability, you are the first saint of the Doomsday. Well, our master can sit down and be the first saint. Zhao Yanyan's eyes were charming, she rolled her eyes at Lin Yu, shook her head and said solemnly, actually, that's not the case. Plant powers can only deal with people who have not completely turned into zombies, and those zombies are the things in my hand. Speaking, Zhao Wanqing raised her left hand, and the green liquid ball was exuding a strong breath of life. See this? This is extracted from zombie bodies. After extraction, the zombies completely turned into fly ash. The initial state is the blue liquid ball on my right, which is full of zombie viruses, and is purified with plant powers. After that, it turns into a liquid that is very beneficial to the human body. Zhao Yanyan said this, it's a bit scary. After extracting the zombie virus, the zombies turn into fly ash? Then purify it and turn it into a tonic that can strengthen the body? Why does this sound a bit creepy? Lord, do you remember the human experiment records found with that doctor? Lin Fan nodded. He remembered clearly that after he came back, he told all the girls about it, but he didn't know the purpose of Zhao Yanyan's question. It sounds strange, Lord, do you know? I majored in botany. Everyone knows that plants need photosynthesis, but why do zombies also need photosynthesis? Are zombie viruses really an evolution? With that said, Zhao Yanyan raised her right hand, and the blue liquid ball floating above the palm of her hand was so conspicuous. Guess what I found in this virus ball? What? Lin Fan couldn't hold back and asked. Zhao Yanyan said with a look of wonder in her eyes, a toxin similar to that of plants, but different from plants. This toxin can destroy the body's immunity, transform people into zombies at extremely fast speeds, and then become a large photosynthetic processor that stores light energy and converts it into life energy. You see, next I will use plant powers to neutralize the virus. As he spoke, the light green light in Zhao Yanyan's hand poured into the blue liquid ball, the strange breath evaporated, and then the entire virus ball transformed into the life element ball on the left at a speed visible to the naked eye. Amazing, right? This is all the energy stored in a zombie body. This thing has no toxic or side effects. Taking it directly can strengthen your physique. I don't know exactly how much it can be improved, but I think this thing can be used to reward female warriors who perform well, and it can even be compressed and condensed. Lin Fan looked at Zhao Yanyan in surprise. He didn't expect that today's surprise would be so big. If this thing can enhance the human body, there seems to be no need to burn the corpses of the zombies. They can be recycled as waste. Plant-type aliens, people who have turned into zombies, cannot be saved, so there is no cruelty issue here. Waste recycling is also a good thing. However, Zhao Yanyan's words also made Lin Fan have endless doubts in his heart. Where did this virus come from? Is this really letting humans evolve? What will they evolve into? A big light bulb? Or an energy storage device? Lin Fan always feels that this matter is not that simple. There are even some conspiracy theories popping up in Lin Fan's head. Could it be? What kind of virus did aliens throw to the Earth? Just to treat the Earth as a huge energy body, and then blah blah blah. If you think about it carefully, it's not impossible. System, do you know what's going on with this zombie virus? My lord, the system is not omniscient and omnipotent. It does not know whether there are aliens or not. Lin Fan had no choice but to shake off the noisy thoughts in his head. Lin Fan no longer had any intention of playing games. He raised his hand and grabbed the green liquid energy ball and felt it carefully. It did contain a lot of life energy. It was far away. The vitality of life in the body of an ordinary person is super high, and it is also relatively pure. Taking this thing can indeed increase personal strength, but for him, or even for the women present, it is of no use at all. Suziologo and Li, for ordinary people like Yun, eating it should have great effects. But Lin Fan didn't plan to try it on Suziologo and the others. There were so many female warriors. Why did he have to try it on Suziologo and the others? He used the energy ball with his backhand, put it away. Lin Fan plans to try it on the female warriors tomorrow. It just so happens that the class system is about to be officially implemented. This thing should be regarded as a reward for the female warriors who have performed well. I believe those female warriors will like it. Yanyan, you did a good job today. At least we don't have to worry about our people being infected by the zombie virus in the future, which is a reassurance. Lin Fan's praise made Zhao Yanyan feel happy. Why did she say so much? Wasn't it just to get Lin Fan to praise her and pay more attention to her? Although she had no intention of competing for favor, Zhao Yanyan still hoped to get Lin Fan more attention. After all, a woman only wants to please her own appearance, so it's not in vain for her to work so hard. Doomsday, I am the only one in the world who has superpowers. Author, Gugu Da. Chapter 140. Chapter 140, The Struggling First Army. There is great competition among women. After all the relevant matters were discussed, Lin Yuyu and Zhao Wanqing went out. In the blink of an eye, only Lin Fan, Suziologo, and Zhang Kaiyu were left in the busy living room. There are a lot of related matters tomorrow, including selecting new female warriors, awarding and commending meetings, issuing new policies, selecting suitable technical personnel, whether it is printing money or making clothing for female warriors, as well as various professions to restore the ecosystem. These they all need to be arranged by Lin Yuyu and the others. Fortunately, Lin Yuyu and the others worked hard, otherwise Lin Fan would probably be the one who would be annoyed to death. Lin Yuyu and the others went out for a trip, and it was almost 11 o'clock when they came back. But what surprised Lin Fan was that something seemed wrong with Suzyalogo tonight. Especially when Lin Yuyu and the others came back, they looked as if there was a bomb planted on the sofa. Restless. Moreover, Lin Fan glanced at him from time to time, and then immediately looked away, just like looking at him for a while and getting a needle's eye. This weird phenomenon made Lin Fan feel dizzy. He wanted to ask, but he didn't have time to speak. Suzyalogo quickly turned his head to the other side. Seeing the confusion on Lin Fan's face, Lin Yuyu quietly whispered a few words into Lin Fan's ear. Lin Fan's heart skipped a beat and he subconsciously looked in the direction of Suzyalogo. Later, Lin Yuyu didn't know what he said. Lin Fan nodded, walked over under Suzyalogo's nervous gaze, bent down and picked her up, and strode towards the master bedroom. On the sofa in the living room, Zhao Yanyan and the others already knew what would happen next. They sat on the sofa as if they were watching a show and watched Suzyalogo being taken away. After resting for about half an hour, Lin Yuyu felt that it was almost done, so she got up and walked to the master bedroom. After Zhao Wanqing and others walked away, Zhang Qiuyu tidied up quickly and eagerly opened the door. After taking a look at the scene in the room, Zhang Qiuyu quickly took off her clothes and got into the floor. Li Yun and Yu Yiren were still sleeping soundly. Smelling the strong scent of Lin Fan on their bodies, Zhang Qiuyu closed her eyes. With both eyes, it was difficult to fall asleep at all. It wasn't until all the sounds subsided that Zhang Qiuyu fell asleep in a sleepy state. It was late at night, and 100,000 troops were camped here in the northeastern suburbs of the Magic City. Simple defenses were set up in an area of more than 10 miles. Dazzling lights shone on the ground, and heads were moving like a torrent under the lights. Ferocious faces flashed across from time to time. Da-da-da. Boom boom boom. The sound of gunshots rang out in succession, and in the rear position, cannons and howitzers erupted with terrifying flames. The ground shook, and balls of dazzling flames exploded, sweeping dozens or hundreds of meters around. This is the first group of the forward army of the Demon City warlord Lu family. It is fortified with a mechanized infantry division, 2 mechanized infantry regiments, a fire strike regiment and an armored regiment with a strength of nearly 30,000 people. There is a heavy rain of bullets and artillery. The sound was so loud that it was almost impossible for the corps tied in front of the forward position to cross the thunder pool under such firepower. At the rear command post, Lu Jingyu frowned and looked at the sand table in front of him, with an indescribably solemn expression on his face. It has been more than half a day since it set off from the military area. The first group army has been moving slowly. It took such a long time to advance 10 kilometers. This is a slow pace for a reorganized group army. We haven't even entered the Magic City yet. There are only so many zombies. How many zombies should there be if we are close to the Magic City or even within the Magic City? For the first time, Lu Jingyu felt that there were really many people in the Magic City. Next to him, Wu Qiuazhong, who looked old but in good spirits, looked at Lu Jingyu's frown, patted him on the shoulder and comforted him. Jingyu, don't be anxious, you can't rush this kind of thing, take it slow and steady, it's getting late. Go and rest. Lu Jingyu nodded silently. There is no point in being anxious now. The zombie tide will not care whether you are in a hurry or not. The zombies have no wisdom and only know how to rush. If you are really impatient, something unexpected may happen. Small casualties. Uncle Wu, I understand. You should go and rest early. After seeing Wu Qiuazhong off, Lu Jingyu frowned and thought for a moment, then shouted, Adjutant. General, what are your orders? Send me an order to send 2 WZ aircraft to the city to see what's going on with Dr. Yang. Be cautious. If General Wu asks, he will say that he is going to detect the corpse tide. Do you understand? The adjutant responded, General, I'll do it right away. Not long after the adjutant walked out of the tent, 2 military helicopters from behind slowly took off, taking 2 small teams of soldiers into the night and flying towards the Magic City area. Standing at the door of the tent, watching the 2 helicopters disappear into the night, Lu Jingyu just turned around and walked back to the tent. At dawn the next day, the female warriors who had been excited for almost the whole night all got up. Just like the students who heard the school bell ringing, they rushed out of the dormitory building in pursuit of each other. At this time, on the eastern horizon, the sun has just revealed its outline, but the female warriors have already been waiting impatiently in the hospital area. They gather together in groups and discuss what is going to happen today. Not only the female soldiers, the soldiers' dormitory and the maids' dormitory are also in a state of panic. Today is a big reshuffle of the hospital's power. There will be big changes in personnel, a more complete class system, a complete currency system, and an upcoming expansion. The ecosystem that comes is a huge opportunity. This is a reshuffle, but also an opportunity to start over. If you can grasp it, although it cannot be said that you can soar into the sky, your status, treatment, and even living conditions will be significantly improved. Improvement. Not all maids want to do the tiring work of moving steel, dry cleaning cars, and farming every day. As long as they have some skills, they want to climb up. Even if they are level 2, they are better than level 1 maids. Everyone's heart is filled with the desire for a new life, and the emergence of monetary policy mean that they can have more entertainment activities, and even the food they eat will be improved, instead of the fixed food every day. The maids don't eat much. Well, I can eat enough. Even because I tried to leave with the military before, it turned out to be a big hole. Even the food aspect of the maids has shrunk by half. But now that we have currency, it is different. In order to let ourselves live, to live better and eat better, women have to work hard even if they don't want to, because they can't complete the task without working hard, and they can't even afford food if they don't have money. The most terrifying thing is that not having food is nothing. If you fail to pay a security fee of 1,000 currency per month, you will be thrown out to feed the zombies. This rule makes it impossible for women not to work hard. The emergence of monetary policy has made big pot meals a thing of the past, and some meat will be provided in the canteen. Food and snacks made the eyes of women who had not eaten meat for a long time turn green. In the open space of the hospital area, Li Fengjiao and other first-generation female warriors gathered together, with longing for the future and passion in their eyes. The emergence of the class system has given them more motivation, which is a symbol of status. Especially today, Lin Fan, the supreme god in their minds, has appeared and issued rewards to female warriors with outstanding performance. This is undoubtedly make them extremely excited. Feng Xiao, what reward do you think we will get? And then what will the level be? Are you a level 3 squad leader or a level 4 squadron leader? Speaking of which, I haven't seen the Lord in 2 days, and I finally saw it again today. Zhu Fangfang stood next to him, with indescribable excitement on his face. He was dancing, and his whole person was in an extremely excited state. Su Yan, who had always had a cold face, could not keep it at this time. His face was slightly slanted, and his corners had a hint of excitement. Smile, cold eyes twinkling, I heard from the mistress that we will also have unified combat uniforms. When the time comes, the master will personally award us with honors and wear badges. I feel that this reward is very good. Li Fengjiao glanced at the excited Su Yan, with a smile in her eyes, and said teasingly, you have to be more restrained when the time comes. If other masters dare to touch you, you will just pass by. It will be very embarrassing then. As if thinking of something, Zhu Fangfang burst out laughing. Su Yan's cold gaze cast her a sideways glance, and she quickly covered her face. However, the shaking of her shoulders showed that Zhu Fangfang did not stop laughing. Su Yan was a little embarrassed. Isn't it just a dream? Are you talking about it every day? Su Yan is so depressed. If he had known that she would not be exposed to the sheets that day. But these women are all old drivers, and they are all human spirits. Look, as soon as he saw the map on the sheet, he understood something. Seeing Zhu Fangfang laughing endlessly, Su Yan was a little confused and said, I'm too lazy to pay attention to you. I'll stay by myself. On the other side, the three sisters Lu Yu are gathered together. After a few days of growth, the three women had bid farewell to their fragile appearance at the beginning. There was a heroic spirit between their brows and a look of hope, which was indescribably moving. Especially after strengthening, the skin of the three girls is white, translucent and extremely delicate. It is better than using any high-end cosmetics. Their bodies are well proportioned and graceful. As the eldest sister, Lu Yu'er sits in the middle, Qin Shihua and Han Jing'ai look alike. She looked confident. With her pink fists clenched tightly, Lu Yu'er looked at the two sisters beside her and said excitedly, Sisters, the opportunity we have waited so hard for has come. Next is our chance to show our faces. We must work hard. Climb up and attract the Lord's attention, so that we can have hope. Qin Shihua nodded her head, her pretty face dizzy with excitement. Our target is the arbitration team. Right? Arbitration team. Listening to the imposing figures of the three sisters, Wang Ziwen silently sheathed the polished tang sword, lowered her head and pondered. In fact, she was the closest to Lin Fan at the time, and also had the most opportunity. Unfortunately, she was too young at the time and missed the great opportunity. But now there is still a chance to make amends. A group of women gathered together in the dark fragrance bar. Hundreds of women gathered together. In the center of the crowd were Zhou Ziyan, Jasmine, and Yerulan. Regarding the existence of Yerulan, the women were all worried. I'm very envious. Not everyone has the courage to touch Lin Fan, but many times, the brave will starve to death. Yerulan took the initiative to touch Lin Fan, and Lin Fan noticed her. At that time, she didn't. Women who muster up the courage will not regret it much. However, there are also conditions for pursuing porcelain. Without Yerulan's strong capital, the result of porcelain would probably not be what it is now. As the three bosses from the dark fragrance bar, Zhou Ziyan being related to Zhao Wanqing, Jasmine was favored by the queen of the palace, Lin Yuyu, and Yerulan was noticed by the master, Lin Fan. It can be said that the dark fragrance bar is uniquely endowed and has high hopes from the women. For the punching team, the women are bound to win. But there are too many people and the competition is too high. Whether it is Zhou Ziyan, Yerulan, Lu Yu'er, Wang Ziwen and others, they are all ready to compete. However, there are exceptions, such as being assigned to the female warrior dormitory yesterday. Lu Minjiao and others were all confused at this time, wondering what the women were arguing about. The women all got up very early. In fact, Lin Fan in the master bedroom had just woken up.